Hey guys, tonight we're taking a cozy stroll back to a time when every kitchen gleamed, every hairdo defied gravity, and every problem could, theoretically, be solved with a brisk vacuum and a mysterious little pill. Yes, welcome to suburbia, circa 1965, the era of casseroles, canned fruit salad, and something called Mother's Little Helper. Don't let the Tupperware parties and pastel wallpaper fool you. Underneath the perfectly pressed aprons was a world so stressful, so hilariously absurd, that it drove an entire generation of housewives to pop more pills than a touring rock band. But before you recline in your boy or arrange your imaginary pearls, take a second to like the video and subscribe. But only if you actually enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your city and how many minutes it took you to remember where you left your keys tonight. Statistically, it's probably more than 10. Now, dim the lights, turn on a fan for that soft mid-century white noise, and get comfortable. Maybe fluff a pillow, slip on a night mask. And if you've got a faint whiff of hairspray in the air, you're already halfway there. Let's pause for a moment. Have you ever wondered what exactly was inside the average 1960s medicine cabinet? Besides enough aspirin to tranquilize a horse. How did housewives keep their homes so spotless when their vacuum weighed as much as a small sedan? Did anyone actually enjoy Jell-O salad? What was it like being expected to look flawless before making toast? And seriously, how many casseroles can one person make before losing all grip on reality? Congratulations. You've just woken up in the suburbs, sometime in the mid-1960s. You're a housewife, surrounded by matching appliances and expectations so high, even your Tupperware burps under pressure. Good luck. You wake to the gentle chime of your husband's alarm clock, not your own, because you don't actually get to sleep in. There's coffee to brew, faces to powder, and a list of chores so long you'd need a PhD to organize them. Your first thought? Maybe today will be different. It won't be, but at least your hair is still in its curlers. The bedroom is still dim, but somewhere in the distance, you hear the comforting drone of a lawnmower, probably Mr. Anderson, who's been up since dawn, mowing the same patch of grass he mowed yesterday. Your own feet hit the carpet, a little threadbare near the dresser from years of hopeful pacing. And you pause for just a second, clutching the ancient bathrobe you've had since the Kennedy administration. You briefly consider crawling back under the covers, but the ghost of your mother-in-law's judgmental gaze propels you forward. The house is cool and quiet, so quiet you almost imagine the world outside has paused for you. Spoiler: it hasn't. Before you can take a deep breath, the familiar clatter of the husband's razor against the porcelain sink signals it's showtime. There's a fleeting moment where you contemplate rebellion, just 5 more minutes with your eyes closed, a silent protest. But the knowledge that someone, somewhere, has invented a new way to criticize your morning routine keeps your eyelids wide open. You shuffle into the kitchen, the linoleum cold beneath your feet, and begin the sacred ritual. Coffee, exactly 2 scoops for him, 3 for you, and if the can is running low, you can always borrow a little from the neighbor's stash and replace it next week. The aroma of drip coffee is the only thing standing between you and a total nervous breakdown before 8 a.m. The percolator gurgles, hisses, and finally sighs in a way that suggests even it is a little overwhelmed by the day ahead. Next, the breakfast production line. Orange juice poured, toast incinerated, eggs scrambled with the single-minded determination of a mother on the brink. Somewhere between buttering toast and cutting grapefruit halves, you start the mental countdown to the next moment you can sit down. Your husband breezes in, crisp shirt, tie askew, already sniffing for the coffee cup as if it's a legal right. "Rough night?" he asks, as though he spent the previous evening fighting off the Cold War, instead of snoring in blissful ignorance while you calculated how many socks are still missing. Children erupt next, one whining about a missing shoe, another trying to eat lipstick, the smallest one trailing a suspicious amount of jelly through the hallway. You glance at the clock and realize you've been awake for 23 minutes, but your pulse has already hit full panic. You orchestrate bathroom visits, hairbrush negotiations, and the ceremonial changing of socks, all while keeping up a steady stream of cheerful encouragement. We don't yell at breakfast. We don't put peanut butter on the cat. Yes, you do need to wear pants. Powdered face, curled hair, and a quick spritz of something floral timed to check the mirror. Staring back at you is a woman who's somehow supposed to look like Donna Reed, but feels more like a worn-out detective in a murder mystery where the main suspect is sleep deprivation. You slap on a smile, the universal armor of every 1960s housewife, and repeat your daily affirmation, if Jackie Kennedy can do it, so can I. Outside, the sun finally crests over the rooftops. You shove 3 children, 2 backpacks, and a sack lunch that may or may not contain a bologna sandwich into the station wagon, waving at Mrs. Simmons, who's already peering out her window with her curlers in and her sense of moral superiority freshly ironed. You buckle the kids, adjust your own girdle, and try not to think about the mountain of laundry already multiplying behind you. Back inside, the house is temporarily still, just you, your cup of coffee, and the echo of your own ambitions. There's a strange peace in this pause, broken only by the realization that the phone is about to ring, the dog has stolen someone's breakfast, and you've already forgotten what you were going to do first. Congratulations, you've survived the morning, only 14 hours to go. In the end, morning glory isn't so much about glory as it is survival, grit, and the uncanny ability to put on lipstick with one hand while scrubbing a skillet with the other. You haven't won any awards, but you've conquered another dawn. And that, in the suburbs, is victory enough, curlers and all. The sound of sizzling bacon, the smell of burnt toast, and 3 kids arguing over who gets the red bowl. Welcome to breakfast, 1960s style. You are expected to serve a full meal before 7:30 a.m., smile included. Forget cereal bars. This is hand-cracked eggs and OJ squeezed from something suspiciously labeled concentrate. Your opening event, waking up just early enough to have a moment of silence before the house explodes into chaos. You tiptoe into the kitchen, hoping the quiet will last, but it never does. The second the refrigerator door creaks, the smallest child materializes, clutching a stuffed animal and demanding to know why you can't make pancakes shaped like Mickey Mouse. You reach for the bacon, only to discover that half the package has mysteriously vanished, likely the victim of a midnight snack attack by your husband, or possibly, based on the evidence, a family of raccoons. Next comes the egg relay. Crack, whisk, pour, scramble, all in under 90 seconds. If even a speck of shell finds its way into the pan, you are legally required to fish it out before anyone notices, lest you be summoned to The Hague for crimes against breakfast. The toast, meanwhile, is either a pale, flabby disappointment or 1 millisecond away from joining the burnt offerings of mornings past. The toaster has 2 settings. Is this even warm? And send it directly to the fire department. Coffee percolates in the corner, bubbling and hissing like it's plotting an escape. You pour a cup for your husband, who's already muttering about the headlines, the neighbors, and the injustice of having to wear a tie to work. His only job is to butter the toast, a task he approaches with the concentration of a neurosurgeon and the speed of a sloth. Meanwhile, you're juggling orange juice concentrate, trying to remember if it's 1 part frozen brick to 3 parts water, or the other way around. You guess, add extra water for luck, and stir until it resembles something drinkable. The children have now escalated their argument to Olympic-level dramatics. One claims the other has licked the red bowl, which, as any judge will tell you, is a disqualifying offense. Another insists on exactly 3 slices of bacon. No more, no less, or he'll be too weak to attend school. You consider enforcing a house rule. Whoever wins the argument gets the last donut, but realize this is how civilizations collapse. Breakfast table diplomacy begins. You referee spoon wars, deploy emergency applesauce, and negotiate peace between syrup and jelly factions. The dog lurks under the table, a furry opportunist hoping someone will drop a sausage or, better yet, the entire plate. You'd worry about him gaining weight, but compared to the mess the kids leave, he's practically the maid. In the midst of the melee, you try to sneak a bite of your own breakfast, cold eggs, burnt toast, and a slice of bacon stolen when no one is looking. The coffee is already lukewarm. Someone has dumped orange juice into their cereal, and someone else is trying to trade their banana for more bacon. You start to explain the nutritional pyramid, but abandon the mission when it's clear you're outnumbered and outgunned. Your husband finishes his toast, grabs his briefcase, and offers a kiss on the cheek with a hurried "Thanks, hon. Don't forget to pick up the dry cleaning and call my mother." You make a mental note to forget the latter. The children bolt for the door, leaving behind a table that looks like it hosted a food fight at the United Nations. You stand in the ruins, clutching your coffee, breathing in the mingled aromas of bacon grease, burnt bread, and whatever experimental jam the kids opened today. You survived the breakfast Olympics, but the true gold medal is the silence that follows, the gentle hum of the refrigerator, the distant sound of the school bus, and, somewhere in the background, the sense that tomorrow you'll do it all again, armed with nothing but a spatula and a stubborn refusal to serve cold cereal. Congratulations. You didn't just make breakfast, you performed a miracle, and did it all before the clock struck 8. And your smile included, of course, never wavered much. Your kitchen is a shrine to technology, or what passed for it in the 1960s. Every countertop is stacked with gadgets promising to shave seconds off your life. From the atomic age toaster to the blender that sounds like a jet engine, each one is a gift from your mother-in-law, along with her silent judgment. There's the electric can opener, whose one job is to open a can of creamed corn without sending you to the emergency room. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it launches the lid across the room like a discus at the suburban Olympics. The latest addition is a space-age mixer, all gleaming chrome and bakelite, proudly perched next to a miracle juicer that once juiced a grape. Slowly, loudly, and with such drama that you're still finding pulp in places pulp shouldn't be. The 1960s promised every woman she could be an astronaut in her own home, provided she was prepared to read a 40-page manual and occasionally risk minor electrocution. Every appliance box swears it will give you more free time. Oddly, this free time never materializes, probably because you spend it untangling cords, washing a dozen tiny parts, or reading warranty information that expires before your coffee percolator even heats up. Take the toaster. It boasts settings from barely warm to incinerate your hopes and dreams. Its levers snap with the intensity of a mousetrap and, more than once, have catapulted toast across the kitchen, nearly taking out your prized duck-shaped salt shaker. Your children think it's magic. Your husband thinks it's proof that progress has peaked. The refrigerator is a behemoth, mint green, humming like a distant UFO, with a freezer so tiny it can hold either 2 trays of ice or a single box of fish sticks, but never both. On top sits a bread box, another so-called innovation designed to keep your Wonder Bread fresh for up to 3 hours. Anything longer, and you're on your own, forced to confront the existential horror of slightly stale sandwiches. Then there's the blender, a genuine terror in pastel turquoise. Every morning, you try to make a simple milkshake, only to unleash a sound that registers on the Richter scale and causes passing dogs to whimper. The bass vibrates across the counter, threatening to launch itself into a better, quieter life. It promises no clumps, but you suspect it's unionized with the toaster, because every batch of anything comes out suspiciously lumpy. You can't forget the pressure cooker. Proudly displayed, despite your ongoing suspicion, it's actually a disguised time bomb. Your neighbor down the street swears by hers, claims it makes the best pot roast in 10 minutes. Yours merely hisses and rattles, and you say a small prayer every time you take the lid off. If dinner doesn't explode, you call it a win. Each of these gadgets is accompanied by a glossy manual full of dubious advice. And every time you attempt to use one, you're reminded that, somewhere, there are engineers laughing. You try to remember which appliance needs to be unplugged before adding water, and which will only work if you jiggle the cord at a very specific angle, knowledge passed down like family secrets, or perhaps like warnings in a haunted house. Of course, there's the ever-present undertone of your mother-in-law's helpful suggestions. She arrives for Sunday roast and surveys your kitchen with the air of a NASA technician pre-flight. "Oh, you're still using that blender?" "I see," she says, in a tone that suggests your entire marriage is being held together by the integrity of your small kitchen appliances. Every time she gifts you a new gadget, you brace yourself for both the learning curve and the hidden message. Maybe this will help. Yet, despite the noise, the mess, and the threat of rogue toast, you persevere. You pilot this chrome and bakelite spaceship with determination and an oven mitt. Because in the end, the true marvel isn't the jet-age gadgets. It's you, calmly navigating the daily gauntlet of appliance mishaps and emerging, if not victorious, then at least with breakfast, sometimes even warm. And if the coffee pot explodes, just call it progress. Before anyone sees you, you must become presentable. That means pantyhose, girdle, slip, dress, hair set to bulletproof, and just enough lipstick to make your teeth look suspiciously white. Sweatpants haven't been invented yet. Comfort is something you read about in magazines. You start the day in the sacred temple of your bedroom, where every article of clothing doubles as both armor and social contract. Your closet, jam-packed with hopeful florals, stiff collars, and skirt suits, hums with the expectations of 1,000 good housekeeping covers. Hanging alongside your dreams of pajamas are the uniforms of suburban battle. Starched blouses, A-line skirts, sweater sets, and 24 variations on sensible shoes, none of which have ever met a podiatrist. First up, pantyhose. The package promises run-resistant, which you know is a bald-faced lie. You perform the delicate dance of tugging them up, careful, careful, like you're defusing a bomb. Inevitably, a rogue toenail snags a thread. You sigh and fetch the emergency backup pair, already kissed with a dab of clear nail polish at the knee. A desperate act of optimism. Now for the girdle, an instrument of containment that could double as a medieval torture device. Its sole purpose is to shape you into the ideal hourglass, or at least prevent your lunch from making any sudden appearances. You wriggle, you shimmy, you hop in a ritual that would make a yoga instructor break out in a cold sweat. Victory comes at a cost, shallow breathing and the constant suspicion you might faint if you bend down too quickly. You reach for the slip, a silky whisper of a thing, always threatening to twist around your waist or bunch up in all the wrong places. It's not meant for comfort. It's meant to protect your dress from daring to touch your actual skin. Because, in 1960s suburbia, there's a strict separation between flesh and fabric. Any violation and you risk social exile or, worse, a comment from your neighbor about visible lines. The dress is next. Zippers are testy, buttons are moody, But nothing says ready to greet the world like a well-placed bow, and a pattern that screams, I can coordinate my curtains and my personality. You step into your chosen armor, praying that it's not too tight, not too loose, and that it won't become transparent at the first sign of direct sunlight. Patterns are loud, colors are brighter than your children's future, and the fabric is approximately as breathable as a shower curtain. Time for shoes. Sensible heels if you're going out, kitten heels if you're feeling fancy, and if you're really living on the edge, a patent leather flat that will betray you the second you step on anything slicker than a prayer. You line up your toes and prepare for battle, knowing full well your feet will be plotting mutiny by lunchtime. Now, the main event. Hair. You slept with curlers so tight you woke up with a tension headache. Armed with a teasing comb and enough hairspray to deplete the ozone, you craft a helmet of hair that can withstand a minor earthquake and at least 2 PTA meetings. Stray fly away? Not on your watch. You glance in the mirror and see your mother, your grandmother, and possibly the ghost of Jackie Kennedy, all nodding in silent approval. Lipstick is the final touch. The tube is named something like Coral Command or Frosted Rose. You swipe it on with the shaky confidence of a woman who has applied 3 cups of coffee and not enough sleep. A dab of blush, a hint of perfume that smells faintly of optimism and powder. And voila! You are now ready to answer the door, face the milkman, and absorb judgment from passing neighbors. Somewhere deep in a dresser drawer, there's a pair of slacks you secretly cherish. Soft, loose, forbidden, but not today. Today, you emerge a vision of 1960s perfection, put together, polished, and just a little bit out of breath. Because in this decade, getting dressed isn't about comfort, it's about maintaining the illusion that you have it all together, even when you're one bent zipper away from an existential crisis. You step into the day, girded for whatever comes, smiling wide enough to distract from the fact that, underneath it all, you'd give anything for a bathrobe and 5 minutes of peace. Your to-do list is as long as the Mississippi. Scrub the tub, bleach the sink, mop the linoleum, dust the lamp that no one has touched since Eisenhower left office. It's less a list and more of a scavenger hunt for your lost will to live. It begins with a scrap of paper magnetized to the fridge, carefully inscribed with tidy optimism the night before. You list the tasks with good intentions. Clean bathroom, wash windows, organize pantry, relax, in quotes, because you know it's a lie. By 9 a.m., the list has doubled in length and ambition. Like a particularly aggressive chain letter, there are categories, subcategories, and even a doodle in the margin, which you tell yourself counts as self-care. You approach the kitchen first. The sink is filled with dishes that seem to breed overnight. You stack plates, scrape off dried cheese, and do battle with a pot so crusted it might qualify as an archaeological site. Dish soap suds up, promising miracles. Your hands, pruny and smelling faintly of lemon, suggest otherwise. Next up, counters. Every crumb, every smudge, every unidentified sticky patch gets its moment under your judgmental gaze. You wipe, you scrub, you polish. Each circle a meditation on the meaning of clean. It's an arms race against invisible germs. Your only weapon, a rag that's seen better decades, and a squirt bottle with a label that's been worn off by time and misplaced hope. The bathroom looms large. You stare at the tub, which is somehow both slippery and sticky, and try not to contemplate the existential nature of soap scum. Bleach in one hand, sponge in the other, you become a domestic gladiator. Every tile is scrubbed until it shines, or at least until you're dizzy from fumes and questioning your life choices. You whisper a small, slightly hysterical prayer that no one drops by for a surprise visit before you've finished. Linoleum. the true test of endurance. Armed with your mop, a relic with half its strings left, and a handle held together by hope and masking tape, you sashay your way down the hall. Each square is a memory. The grape juice spill of '62, the muddy paw prints that never truly washed out, the spot under the table where the youngest child once declared independence with a bowl of spaghetti. The mop, as always, leaves streaks. You stare at the floor, trying to decide if that's just how linoleum is supposed to look, or if it's a sign from the universe that you should embrace imperfection. You do not. You go over it again. Dusting is a game of what even is that. You discover entire civilizations lurking atop bookshelves, lampshades, and in the forgotten corners behind the television. Your feather duster, flimsy and pastel, swirls dust more than it collects it. You sneeze, contemplate wearing a kerchief like a Hollywood starlet, then remember you're already in curlers and last week's apron. You dust anyway, pausing only to marvel at the mysterious artifact that is your husband's bowling trophy. Why do you keep dusting it? Habit, probably, or spite. Somewhere in this parade of futility, the phone rings, breaking your trance. It's your neighbor, reporting a 2-for-1 sale on lemon wax at the supermarket. You add "go to store" to your list, then realize your list is now officially recursive. The chores are making more chores. You wonder if you should add "sit down and cry" or "run away to Paris." But instead you pencil in "vacuum living room" and rotate couch cushions. As the day drags on, you check off tasks, savoring each fleeting moment of victory, only for the list to laugh in your face. For every item you finish, 2 more appear, one from the kids, one from the husband, and one, mysteriously, from the dog. You accept defeat gracefully, surrendering to the reality that a house is a living, breathing thing, slightly messy, always in need of attention, never truly done. By evening, you're left holding a pencil, a crumpled list, and a sense of accomplishment tinged with existential dread. You didn't win, but you survived. Tomorrow, the list will be back, longer and more ambitious. But tonight, you rest, exhausted, slightly lemon-scented, and secretly proud that at least the lamp is dust-free. It's 9 a.m., and you're already locked in mortal combat with Mount Laundry, which regenerates like a hydra. The washing machine is louder than the school bus and prone to spontaneous fits of leaking. Fabric softener is a luxury. Shrunken sweaters are a certainty. You begin the day by hauling an overflowing wicker basket down the hallway, tripping only twice on socks that may or may not belong to anyone in your house. The laundry room, a windowless closet crammed between the kitchen and the garage, is a humid shrine to chaos. Dust bunnies and lone clothespins lurk in every shadow. Somewhere beneath the piles you suspect there's a floor, maybe even linoleum, if you ever see it again. The air is thick with the heady perfume of detergent, powdered of course, because liquid soap is still just a rumor in the latest issue of Better Homes and Gardens. You measure out a scoop with the old dented coffee cup, then toss in an armful of clothes that are sorted by nothing except vague color and degree of visible trauma. Whites, brights, and mystery stains all go in together because you live dangerously. The washing machine, a hulking top-loader painted in a shade best described as hospital green, rumbles to life like a minor earthquake. You pray it doesn't shake itself across the room again or decide, as it sometimes does, to drain water directly onto your shoes. The cycle dials are labeled heavy, medium, and wishful thinking. You select heavy, just in case, and hope for the best. While the machine does its best imitation of a jet engine taking off, you confront the dryer, an appliance that runs on hope and a pocket full of quarters. It groans, it clanks, it occasionally spits out buttons and bobby pins that were lost to time and pant cuffs. You check the lint trap, which is packed with enough fluff to knit a second dog. The dryer's heat is a wild gamble. Jeans come out soggy, but your favorite sweater will exit 3 sizes too small and ready for its new life as a sock puppet. You turn your attention to the mending pile, that ever-growing testament to lost causes. Buttons need sewing, holes need patching, and at least one sock is begging for a merciful end. You make a few half-hearted stitches before giving up and tossing the item back into the rotation. Who's going to notice, really? Certainly not the child who refuses to wear anything but cowboy pajamas, or the husband who still insists those boxers are lucky. Hanging clothes is an exercise in futility. You wrestle with a jungle of wire hangers, each one bent into an abstract sculpture by forces unknown. The laundry line in the backyard sags under the weight of sheets, towels, and the unspoken dreams of freedom. Birds nest in your pillowcases. A rogue breeze snatches a towel and deposits it in Mrs. Simmons's petunia bed next door, which is sure to become gossip by lunchtime. Stain removal is a science best left to NASA. You dab, you soak, you mutter ancient curses under your breath, but the combination of grass, jelly, and mystery goo remains unmoved. You briefly consider turning every t-shirt into a tie-dye project. Instead, you settle for pinning on a brooch or calling it vintage. By noon, you've run 3 loads, folded mountains of clothes, and managed to pair at least 4 socks that actually match. You've also lost 1 button, half a day, and any remaining illusions about domestic bliss. The laundry pile, sensing your fatigue, immediately multiplies. Fresh towels, forgotten gym shorts, and somehow, a shirt you're sure you washed yesterday. You stare at the baskets, now slightly smaller but never empty. The battle is endless. You know deep down the best you can do is hold the line. The only true victory? A moment of quiet when the machines finally stop and you can press a warm towel to your cheek and pretend, just for a second, that you've conquered the Hydra. Then a child shouts, "Mom, I spilled juice," and the cycle begins again. Congratulations, you're the undefeated champion of the laundry room, at least until tomorrow. Nestled between the rouge and cold cream are the real treasures. A glass bottle of nerve pills, a jar of Vicks, and something labeled Mother's Little Helper. You don't remember getting a prescription, but you do remember your doctor's wink, and the fact that everyone else has one too. The medicine cabinet itself is a monument to mid-century hope. Its mirrored doors are smudged with fingerprints and optimism, reflecting the face of a woman who's learning to perfect the balance between grace and barely contained panic. It's just wide enough to hide the true arsenal within. Rows of glass jars, mysterious tablets, a chipped bottle of aspirin, cough syrup, and a parade of creams and potions with names like Calm Easy, Relax All, and Rejuvenate Face Dew. Some products promise a new life. Most promise a better morning. You start the day with your beauty ritual, a dab of cold cream to wash away yesterday's mascara, and the creeping suspicion you'll never sleep through the night again. The rouge is a cheerful coral, purchased during a rare burst of self-confidence in the Woolworths cosmetics aisle. Its purpose: make you look as lively as you don't feel. You reach, almost unconsciously, for the nerve pills. The label is faded, but the effect is familiar. One small tablet, the psychological equivalent of a deep breath, a gentle nudge that helps you face whatever fresh chaos the day has planned. You're not alone. At coffee clatches and bridge club, every woman seems to have her own bottle, tucked discreetly in a purse or a kitchen drawer, swapped as casually as recipes for ambrosia salad. Then there's the Vicks, mysterious, mentholated, and capable of curing everything from colds to existential dread. You can't remember the last time you actually had a cold, but the jar is always there, ready to be smeared on chests, noses, and the occasional unruly child as a universal remedy. The scent lingers through the house like a nostalgic fog, reminding you of your mother's gentle hands and her theory that anything can be solved with enough vapor rub and a hot towel. And, of course, Mother's little helper. The bottle is small, amber, and topped with a cap that never seems to close tightly enough. It sits at the back of the cabinet, behind the toothpaste and the Maybelline Miracle Lash, half hidden and never discussed aloud. The doctor called it a mood booster. Your friends call it essential. You just know it's the difference between you and total household collapse. You can't help but wonder, was this what all those glamorous magazine ads meant by modern convenience? Not the dishwasher, not the vacuum, but this discreet tablet that softens the sharp edges of a life spent juggling perfection. There's a strange camaraderie in it. The quiet nod exchanged at the pharmacy counter, the knowing look from a neighbor whose kids are just as wild, whose house is just as messy, whose husband is just as important at the office. Every so often you stare at the cabinet's contents and marvel at the double standard. Beauty is expected, effort is invisible, and help, when needed, should be silent and pill-shaped. You try to laugh about it at lunch, but the laughter never lasts as long as the afternoon. After the kids are dropped at school, you pass the medicine cabinet and consider whether today's a helper kind of day. The answer, 9 times out of 10, is yes. And even when it's not, just knowing the option exists is a strange comfort. As the day unfolds, spilled milk, ringing phones, neighborly drama, laundry hydra, it's these tiny vials and creams, these whispered remedies, that keep the show on the road. Not all heroes wear capes. Some just keep their medicine cabinets well stocked and their secrets behind mirrored doors. By bedtime, the ritual reverses. Cold cream, cough drops, maybe one last little helper as you watch your reflection yawn. You smile, faint but determined, and close the cabinet. The mirror hides your secrets until morning, when the ritual and the search for beauty and calm begins again. You wrangle kids, book bags, and a mystery stain out to the family station wagon, performing acrobatics to avoid eye contact with Mrs. Simmons next door, who by 8:15 is already judging you for the state of your car's ashtray. The morning sun isn't so much shining as it is glaring through the living room window, highlighting every new fingerprint and last night's forgotten dishes. The children swarm around your knees, trailing crumbs, glue, and questions about the fairness of math homework. You do your best to herd them toward the front door while performing a final uniform check. Shirt tucked in, socks matching, at least by color family, and faces wiped just enough to suggest someone cared. You perform the ceremonial bag check, lunchboxes, homework folders, the occasional surprise permission slip unearthed with seconds to spare. You pack it all into a ragtag assortment of canvas totes and battered peanuts lunchboxes, cramming them into the open trunk with the precision of a NASA technician. The youngest insists on carrying a homemade diorama the size of a small microwave. You tell her it's a team lift situation. The family station wagon sits in the driveway, a 2-ton monument to mid-century practicality, sporting wood paneling and the faint scent of old French fries. The inside is a time capsule of last month's field trip. Crayons melted to the upholstery, a petrified fry under the seat, and the eternal hope that the radio might someday play something besides poker. You buckle in the kids, adjust the rearview mirror, and give the ignition a gentle pep talk before turning the key. The engine coughs, stutters, and miracle of miracles starts. As you reverse down the driveway, you do your best to keep your gaze forward, but it's too late. Mrs. Simmons stands on her porch, coffee in one hand, binoculars of judgment in the other. Her flower beds are immaculate. Her curlers are arranged with military precision, and her face carries the perpetual expression of someone who knows exactly how many weeds you haven't pulled this month. You nod politely, resisting the urge to shout, "We're all just doing our best, Janet." On the street, a convoy of station wagons and sedans form a slow-moving parade, each one packed with kids and harried mothers, all pretending not to notice who's still in slippers or whose exhaust pipe is held on with a coat hanger. The school run is a local sport, equal parts obstacle course, time trial, and popularity contest. You grip the wheel with one hand while passing a tissue to the back seat with the other, dodging rogue tricycles and the occasional runaway poodle. The car radio offers little comfort. You twist the dial, landing somewhere between a weather report and a cheery jingle for floor wax. The kids launch into their daily "who gets the window seat" debate, only pausing to spot friends and shout greetings through the half-open windows. The diorama teeters dangerously, but you negotiate every corner like a NASCAR pro, maintaining the illusion of calm even as you mentally review the carpool schedule and try to remember if you packed everyone's gym shoes. You reach the school curb just as the bell begins to ring. The older kids leap out, trailing scarves, lunch sacks, and an aura of barely contained chaos. The youngest lingers, suddenly bashful, insisting you walk her to the door. You exit the car, hoping your presentable clothes survived the morning's gauntlet and that no one will notice the coffee stain cleverly hidden under your lapel pin. Inside, the schoolyard is a bustling bazaar of parents, teachers, and students. You trade polite smiles, exchange survival tips with the other mothers, and wave at the principal, whose handshake is suspiciously damp. The children disappear into the building, and for one glorious moment, you savor the quiet. Then you remember, you still have to face the return trip, the grocery run, and Mrs. Simmons' daily inquisition about car maintenance. As you finally pull back into your driveway, the station wagon wheezing in relief, you close your eyes for a moment of gratitude. School drop-off complete. Only 1,000 things left to do. And with any luck, you'll avoid eye contact with Mrs. Simmons until at least tomorrow. The supermarket is a battleground, and the enemy is price inflation. You navigate narrow aisles in kitten heels with a purse full of coupons and the lurking suspicion that someone will judge you for buying store-brand peas. The adventure begins before you even leave the car. You steel yourself in the parking lot, a vast tundra of chrome bumpers and rogue shopping carts. Adjusting your sunglasses and your dignity, your shoes, carefully chosen to match your errand's dress, are already reminding you that fashion was invented by people who never carried a bag of flour further than the photo shoot. You step onto the blacktop, gracefully dodging an oil stain shaped suspiciously like the state of Texas. Inside, the supermarket is cold, bright, and filled with the faint whiff of produce, waxed floors, and desperation. You grab a cart that immediately lists to the left. Of course you do, it's tradition. Every wheel wobbles in its own special rhythm, threatening to guide you straight into a pyramid of grapefruit with the precision of a demolition derby. But you persevere, clutching your grocery list as if it's a military strategy brief. First stop, produce. You pick through apples, poking for bruises, making sure to look as though you know the secret to ripeness. Around you, other housewives pretend not to compare carts. There's a silent, mutual understanding that whoever picks the firmest cantaloupe today will win, if not the respect, at least the envy of the produce section. You remember to buy celery, but forget why. Maybe there's a recipe, maybe it's just for show. Next, the can aisle. You retrieve your coupon wallet, a battered accordion-style monument to frugality, and begin the great shuffle. You squint at labels, match up codes, and try to remember if this is the week tomato soup is on sale or if you're falling for a clever end cap display. A woman you vaguely recognize from bridge club glances into your cart, lingering on the generic peas. You catch her eye, daring her to mention it. She doesn't, but you both know she'll bring it up next Tuesday. In the meat section, You perform advanced mathematics. Is the family pack of ground beef really a deal, or will you be eating leftovers until someone invents the microwave? The butcher, a cheerful man with a pencil behind his ear, tries to upsell you a suspiciously marbled roast. You nod, smile, and request just a pound of the usual. You'll stretch it with breadcrumbs and optimism. The dairy section is a cold, slippery obstacle course. Children with sticky hands dart between carts, threatening to topple the entire milk display. You weigh your options: whole milk, skim, or the new evaporated variety that promises convenience and delivers confusion. You settle for whatever's on sale, hoping no one you know is around to judge your decision. By now, your feet are throbbing. You lean on the cart for support, feeling the slow, creeping ache of a woman who's walked a mile on tile in shoes designed for sitting. You consider giving up, but remember the coupon for 2 cents off pineapple rings and press on. Frozen foods are last, an Arctic tundra of peas, pot pies, and hope. You try to hide your thrill at discovering fish sticks on sale while surreptitiously eyeing the fancy TV dinners. Maybe next week. You tell yourself, if there's a coupon, and the mood for culinary rebellion strikes. At checkout, the real games begin. You organize your coupons by expiration date, smile sweetly at the cashier, and pray you haven't missed a double discount day. The line behind you grows, tension mounting as you defend every penny like a Cold War diplomat. The bag boy jams the bread under the canned goods, the eggs under the milk, and you wonder if anyone, anywhere, has figured out how to bag groceries without breaking the spirit. You limp to the car, groceries, and dignity in tow. The shoes have won, but so have you. Tomorrow there will be dinner, and maybe, just maybe, no one will mention the peas. If you're lucky, there's a brief, caffeinated respite at a neighbor's house. This is where secrets are exchanged, hair is judged, and competitive baking reaches Olympic levels. Someone's Jell-O mold is always suspiciously vibrant. It all begins with a coded phone call, 2 short rings, 1 long. The password is, "I just made a fresh pot." You snatch your purse, brush the crumbs from your skirt, and glance in the mirror to ensure your lipstick is still holding on for dear life. 5 minutes later, you're at Mrs. Kirkpatrick's front door, where the air is heavy with the scent of percolated coffee, aquanet, and a subtle undertone of competitive hospitality. The living room is staged for battle. Doilies on every surface, teacups matched to saucers, and a centerpiece gel. Oh, mold that seems to glow with an unnatural neon intensity. You suspect it could power a small flashlight. Mrs. Kirkpatrick greets you with a peck on the cheek and a quick up and down scan that inventories your hair, shoes, and emotional stability. It's tradition. You settle onto the couch beside Mrs. Torres and Mrs. Franklin, all perched with identical posture, ankles crossed and eyebrows arched. Someone produces a plate of lemon bars so perfect they look like an ad for margarine. The conversation begins innocently enough. How the rain is good for the hydrangeas, how the school principal's new tie is a little too adventurous for a Tuesday. But everyone knows the main event is just beneath the frosted surface. Coffee is poured with practiced grace, the sugar bowl passed with secret significance. You sip and listen, waiting for the first crack in the pleasantries. It comes, as it always does, with a question delivered too casually. "Did you hear about the Smiths' new lawn gnome?" The reply is a chorus of, "Oh really? And how interesting," which is suburban code for "tell us everything, and don't leave out the scandalous bits." The gossip flows, smooth and strong as the coffee. Mrs. Torres recounts the saga of the PTA bake sale meltdown, complete with dramatic reenactments of Mrs. Johnson's Jell-O disaster. It never set. It just jiggled itself right off the table. Mrs. Franklin shares her theory that the mailman is moonlighting as a private detective. based entirely on the fact that he wears sunglasses, even in the rain. You contribute a tidbit about the new checkout girl at the grocery store, her eyeliner sharp enough to wound, her attitude sharper. There are competitive undertones. Every cookie, every scone is silently graded, every napkin fold admired or pitied. Someone will whisper, "Did you see how she cut those brownies? With a ruler." But no one mentions calories, only technique. You nod, sip, and make a mental note to up your own game for next week. The lemon bars are already a legend in the making. Inevitably, the conversation circles back to children whose reading above grade level, who accidentally colored the cat blue, who forgot their gym shorts again. Spouses get a quick once-over. Everyone pretending their own husband is the only one incapable of matching socks. Someone shares a tip for getting grass stains out of white pants. Try club soda and prayer. And someone else claims her secret is just not buying white pants. By the second cup, defenses lower. Complaints surface about noisy neighbors, never-ending laundry, and the existential exhaustion of keeping up with the Joneses. There's a collective sigh, half relief, half caffeine. For a moment, everyone agrees that maybe, just maybe, a single houseplant could be allowed to die without shame. As noon approaches, you gather your purse and your composure. There are casseroles to assemble and dust bunnies waiting at home. You trade air kisses, promise to exchange recipes, and carry with you the unspoken comfort of a morning well spent. The coffee clatch disperses, each woman a little lighter, a little more fortified against the absurdities of suburban life, and maybe, just maybe, with a new recipe for neon jello. Congratulations! You've survived the sacred ritual, and no one even noticed the run in your stocking. This time, daytime TV is an endless parade of cheery jingles and dubious claims. Every ad promises domestic nirvana in exchange for a new floor wax or a miracle diet pill. You half listen, half dream, fully aware you'll buy whatever promises to make your life easier. It's 10:15 a.m., and you're finally sitting down, laundry in the wash, children at school, coffee cup in hand, ready to bask in the cathode ray glow of daytime television. The volume is low enough to convince yourself you're just catching the news, but loud enough to drown out the ticking of the kitchen clock and the guilt of that still untidy hallway. The show fades to commercial, and suddenly, you're whisked away to a magical world where every problem is solved in 30 seconds, usually by a woman named Linda, with perfectly flipped hair and a suspiciously cheerful attitude. A sprightly jingle floats through the room. Dazzle bright, makes your kitchen shine just right. You watch, mesmerized, as Linda glides across a linoleum floor in high heels, waving a mop like a baton. The kitchen sparkles, her children are clean and smiling, and her husband appears, tie straight, just to marvel at her miracle floor. Your own mop leans forlornly in a corner, streaked with defeat, but you're momentarily convinced that the right floor wax could change your entire life. The next ad brings you a vision of the future, a sleek new blender capable of pulverizing ice, peanuts, and all your regrets in under 10 seconds. Order now and receive a free set of steak knives. Promises the disembodied voice, its tone equal parts trust and threat. You write down the number on a grocery list, sandwiched between eggs and return library books, half convinced you'll call if only to see if anyone ever actually gets those knives. Then comes the miracle pill. Are you tired? Run down? Do you sometimes wish you could just disappear? The camera pans to a beautiful, serene housewife, hair gleaming, clutching a glass of water and a smile that's a little too wide. Mother's little helper. Because you deserve to feel your best. You notice the same bottle in your medicine cabinet and experience a fleeting sense of kinship with the nation's most glamorous insomniacs. There's always a cereal commercial starring a cartoon tiger or a talking toucan. You watch as children pour rainbow-colored loops into bowls the size of bathtubs, the milk swirling in slow motion. Your own kid's cereal, you recall, comes in a no-name box that simply says toasted oats and features a blank-eyed horse. For a split second, you wonder if they'd be happier with more color in their lives, or if the horse knows something the tiger doesn't. Soap ads are a special category of psychological warfare. If your whites aren't dazzling, are you even trying? Whispers a voice, as animated blue suds fight a losing battle with a fictional stain. You glance at the laundry basket and make a silent pact to try a new detergent next week. Maybe one that comes with a free oven mitt or just the promise of less shame. By noon, you've been promised everything from radiant hair to a marriage-saving pot roast. You are targeted, enticed, and sometimes accused. Do you know where your dust bunnies are hiding? By a steady rotation of pitch-perfect smiles. The living room smells faintly of coffee and new carpet anxiety. You resolve again to ignore the ads. 5 minutes later, you're jotting down floor wax, vitamin tonic, maybe steak knives, on your shopping list, just in case. In the mystical world of TV commercials, hope is only ever one purchase away. And if all else fails, at least you've got the jingles stuck in your head for the rest of the week. Somewhere between dust the drapes and arrange the canapes, you wonder if it's too early for a drink. According to every magazine, it's not. The 3 p.m. martini is as much a ritual as vacuuming the shag carpet, preferably in pearls. It starts as a thought, a whisper, a tiny, harmless idea that drifts through your brain the way cigarette smoke drifts through a living room, slow, lazy, and somehow always present. You're standing at the sink, staring down at a crusted casserole dish like it personally betrayed you when the thought arrives. A drink would fix this. Not the dish, of course. Nothing can fix the dish. But you could be fixed, temporarily, spiritually, like a car getting a quick oil change before another long road trip through suburban madness. The strangest part is how normal it feels. You're not sneaking off to a back alley bar. You're not slamming whiskey like a tragic noir detective. You're in your own home, in a clean apron. Your hair is still holding its shape thanks to industrial-grade hairspray. And somewhere in the house, on a little tray that's always waiting like a loyal butler, sits your cocktail set. The shaker, the tiny glasses, the bottle of gin or vodka that somehow lasts forever because it only comes out in moments of sacred necessity. You glance at the clock. 2:47 p.m. Close enough. Let's talk about the setup. Because the afternoon martini isn't just a drink, it's a ceremony. You don't just pour alcohol into a mug like some kind of feral creature. No, this is classy escapism. You open the cabinet and take out the martini glasses. Those delicate little triangles that make every sip feel like it's being judged by the ghost of your finishing school teacher. You place them on the counter like you're starring in your own black and white commercial. When the day gets tough, give yourself the elegance you deserve. Then you open the fridge. The ice cubes are cloudy, a bit suspicious. One of them has a frozen pea stuck in it, which is deeply unsettling. But you use them anyway, because perfection is exhausting and you've already scrubbed the toilet twice today. You fill the shaker. You pour in gin with the confidence of someone who has survived 3 children and a vacuum cleaner that weighs as much as a refrigerator. You add vermouth. Or maybe you just wave the vermouth bottle near the shaker, like some women do, because that's what the magazines say sophisticated ladies do. And then the shaking. The sound is sharp and bright, like you're summoning a better version of yourself from the heavens. You shake it longer than necessary, partly because it's satisfying, and partly because you're hoping the noise drowns out the guilt. You're not drunk, you tell yourself. You're coping. There's a difference. It's in the glass shape. You strain the martini into the glass, careful not to spill a single drop. You drop in an olive. 3 if you're feeling bold. 1 if you're still pretending you're not doing this. Then you take the first sip, and oh, it hits you like a warm blanket woven entirely from denial. Your shoulders loosen. The tension in your jaw softens. Suddenly, the laundry pile doesn't look like a war crime. Suddenly, Mrs. Simmons next door isn't your enemy. She's just a woman who probably also has a cocktail shaker hidden somewhere behind her good Christian values cookbook. This is the part where you sit down. You don't often sit down. Sitting down is dangerous. Sitting down means thinking. But the martini makes sitting down feel like an achievement. You perch on the edge of the sofa, legs crossed, like you're hosting your own talk show called How to Survive with Your Sanity Mostly Intact. Outside, the neighborhood is quiet. You can hear a lawn sprinkler clicking. Somewhere, a car door slams. Somewhere else, a dog barks like it's warning the world that time is marching on. But inside your living room, everything slows. You sip again, and for a brief moment, just one gentle, gin-scented moment, you feel like you could survive the rest of the day. The after-school chaos, the dinner frenzy, the husband coming home expecting a warm meal and a warm smile. You might even make canapes. You might even enjoy it. And then you look at the clock again, 3:02 p.m. Perfect. You aren't early, you're right on time. Because in the 1960s, the martini isn't indulgence. It's maintenance. And you can't make this up, but somehow, everyone pretends it's normal. A good housewife's greatest fear is falling behind the Joneses. You peek out the window to see if the neighbor's grass is greener. And if it is, you contemplate moving, or at least hiding all your dead plants before the next garden club meeting. This is not casual curiosity. This is surveillance. You lift the curtain just enough to see, careful not to be seen yourself, because nothing invites suspicion like obvious spying. Across the street, the Hendersons' lawn looks freshly mowed. Again, you mentally count the days since your last pass with the mower and decide the difference is probably just the light. It's always the light. Or maybe they're watering at night. Night watering feels sneaky, suspicious. Very on-brand for the Hendersons. The neighborhood runs on a silent scoring system no one ever explains, but everyone somehow knows. Lawns are points. Clean driveways are points. Seasonal decorations deployed on time are very serious points. Forget to take down the Christmas wreath by mid-January, and you might as well put up a sign that says I've given up. You tell yourself it doesn't matter, that you're above all this. And then immediately remember, you still haven't replaced the burned-out porch bulb. You add it to your mental list, right under fix everything about yourself. Every walk to the mailbox is a performance. You straighten your posture, adjust your sweater, and adopt a neutral but pleasant expression that says, yes, I am busy, fulfilled, and absolutely not spiraling internally. If you're lucky, you'll only encounter one neighbor. If you're unlucky, you'll run into a cluster, and suddenly you're discussing fertilizer ratios and PTA rumors while desperately hoping no one asks how your roses are doing. They are not doing well. They know it. You know it. The roses know it. Windows are another battleground. Too many smudges and people start to wonder. Wonder what, exactly, is unclear, but it can't be good. You wipe fingerprints with the intensity of someone erasing evidence. Curtains must be clean but not flashy. Too bold a pattern suggests attention-seeking, too plain suggests financial trouble. You settle for safe florals and pray no one looks too closely. Then there's the driveway. Oil stains are unacceptable. A single stray weed poking through a crack feels like a personal failure. You bend down to pull it, pretending you meant to be on your knees in the driveway at 4:30 p.m. A passing neighbor waves. You wave back, smiling, one hand full of dirt, silently screaming. The real danger comes from comparison. Someone always has a newer car, a quieter vacuum, a child who plays piano without crying. You tell yourself that comparison is the thief of joy. But joy doesn't mow itself into neat lines or edge its own flower beds. You can't help noticing. No one can. The neighborhood is a living magazine spread, and you're constantly worried you're on the page titled Before. Garden club meetings are where the tension peaks. You arrive armed with compliments and baked goods, hoping they'll distract from your lack of petunias. The conversations are gentle, polite, and razor-sharp beneath the surface. "Oh, you planted late this year?" someone asks, voice dripping with concern. You nod, explain the weather, the kids. Mercury in retrograde, whatever works. Everyone nods back, filing the information away for later analysis. At night, when the curtains are finally closed, you let yourself relax a little. The house is quiet. The lawn will survive until tomorrow. The neighbors will find something else to judge. You remind yourself that perfection is impossible, that everyone is just trying to keep up, that behind every immaculate front yard is a woman exactly like you, peeking through her own curtains, wondering if she's doing enough. And then you remember the porch light. You sigh, get up, and go change the bulb, just in case. You attend yet another PTA meeting, where the minutes last longer than the Cold War. The agenda is mostly bake sale drama, with a side of competitive casserole shaming. The meeting takes place in the school cafeteria, a room that smells faintly of floor wax, pencil shavings, and childhood disappointment. You sit on a folding chair, designed by someone who actively dislikes the human spine, clutching a paper cup of lukewarm coffee and a notebook you will pretend to take notes in. Around you, other parents settle in, exchanging polite smiles that say, "I like you, but I will absolutely remember what you brought to the last bake sale." The PTA president calls the meeting to order with a wooden gavel that feels wildly unnecessary for a group arguing about brownies. She smiles tightly and reminds everyone to sign in. Because attendance matters, apparently, for reasons no one can ever fully explain. You sign your name carefully, aware this document could someday be used as evidence that you tried. The first 20 minutes are devoted to reading the minutes from the last meeting. You were there. You lived it. You do not need to hear it again, but you do anyway. Every motion, every second, every objection is recited like sacred scripture. Someone corrects a typo. Someone else insists their suggestion was mischaracterized. You stare at the clock, watching time stretch and warp. Then comes the bake sale discussion. This is where things get serious. A woman in the front row clears her throat and raises a concern about store-bought items. The room stiffens. You feel it in your shoulders. Store-bought is a loaded phrase. It implies laziness. It implies a lack of love. It implies someone showed up with cookies that came from a box and tried to pass them off as homemade, which is practically treason. You think about your own contribution last time, Rice Krispie treats cut unevenly, wrapped in wax paper that refused to cooperate. No one said anything, but no one forgot. Another hand goes up. Someone suggests themed baked goods for the next fundraiser. Patriotic cupcakes, seasonal pies, possibly shaped like apples. The room murmurs. Themes are dangerous. Themes invite comparison. Comparison invites judgment. You nod thoughtfully while mentally calculating how much red, white, and blue frosting costs, and whether you could fake enthusiasm convincingly. Then there's the casserole debate. Apparently, the last potluck was unbalanced. Too many tuna casseroles, not enough variety. Someone mentions sodium levels. Someone else brings up gelatin. A woman across the aisle says, "Well, my family loved it," and you sense blood in the water. The PTA president intervenes before it escalates into open warfare, suggesting a sign-up sheet next time. A sign-up sheet never solves anything. It only documents the chaos. As the meeting drags on, the conversation shifts to school funding, field trips, and whether the spring dance should allow modern music. This sparks a 15-minute argument about what modern means, during which you learn far more than you ever wanted to about someone's feelings on electric guitars. You shift in your chair, trying not to think about the laundry still waiting at home or the fact that dinner hasn't been planned yet. You glance around the room and realize everyone looks just as tired as you feel, dressed neatly, smiling politely, all silently wondering how this became their life. Finally, mercifully, the meeting adjourns. Chairs scrape, papers rustle, people gather their purses and dignity. In the hallway, conversations soften, compliments are exchanged, apologies are implied. Someone asks for your casserole recipe, and you promise to write it down, knowing full well you never will. As you step outside into the evening air, you take a deep breath. The sky is darkening. The world feels briefly quiet. You survived another meeting. No one accused you of anything. You didn't cry or throw a chair. By PTA standards, this counts as a success. Tomorrow, you'll bake something. Or you won't. Either way, you'll show up again. Because this is what's expected. And because, deep down, you know the PTA isn't really about bake sales or casseroles at all. It's about proving, again and again, that you're holding it together, at least on paper. The witching hour begins at 4:59 p.m. Dinner must appear from nowhere, preferably with 3 sides and a sauce made from condensed soup. Your husband will arrive home expecting a hot meal and zero evidence that children ever existed. This is the moment the day has been building toward. Like a suspense movie where you already know the monster is hiding in the kitchen. At 4:30, everything feels manageable. At 4:59, time collapses. The children reappear from school like tiny tornadoes, dropping backpacks, opinions, and mysterious notes from teachers directly onto your clean counters. Someone is hungry now. Someone else insists they already ate but is starving again. You take a deep breath and begin. Let's talk about the refrigerator. You open it with confidence, then immediately regret that confidence. Inside is a collection of half-used leftovers, a sweating head of lettuce, and at least 3 jars whose contents are now philosophical questions rather than food. You stare, hoping inspiration will strike. It doesn't. So you reach for the recipe box, that sacred stack of stained index cards promising easy family favorites and quick weeknight meals, neither of which are actually easy or quick. You choose a casserole. You always choose a casserole. It's safe. It's respectable. It forgives mistakes. You brown meat while juggling a crying child, a ringing phone, and the oven preheating at a speed that suggests it personally resents you. You open a can of condensed soup with the electric opener that may or may not work today. It works, but angrily. The soup plops out with a noise that feels accusatory. The kitchen fills with smells, onion, butter, something vaguely beige. You stir with authority, even if you're not entirely sure what stage you're at. Measurements become suggestions. Seasoning is added to taste, which today means until it feels right emotionally. Someone asks, "What's for dinner?" You answer, "Food," and feel powerful for exactly 3 seconds. At 5:20, the house looks like a crime scene. Crayons on the floor, a cup of milk abandoned in the hallway, a child doing homework directly on top of a clean placemat. You attempt damage control, wiping surfaces and shoving evidence into drawers like a detective hiding clues. Dinner must be hot, yes, but the house must also look like it belongs to an adult woman who is thriving. The oven timer dings too early. You ignore it. Then it dings again, louder, more insistent. You check the casserole. It's not done. You turn up the heat and whisper a threat to the appliance. Side dishes now require attention. A vegetable is boiled into submission. Bread is warmed just enough to feel intentional. You wipe your hands on your apron, which has seen more action than a battlefield medic. At 5:55, you hear the car. Panic. You do a final sweep of the living room, kicking toys under the couch with Olympic precision. You straighten pillows that will be sat on immediately. You shoo children into cleanish shirts and instruct them to act normal, which only makes things worse. You smooth your hair, check your lipstick, and remind yourself to smile. The front door opens. Your husband steps in, tie loosened, weary from a long day of very important things. He inhales deeply. "Smells good," he says, and you cling to those words like a life raft. He does not notice the crayon. He does not notice the milk. He does not notice the emotional labor smoldering in every corner of the room. This is a success. Dinner is served. Plates are passed. Someone complains. Someone asks for ketchup. Someone eats nothing but bread. You sit down last, your own food slightly cooler, your appetite dulled by exhaustion. You take a bite anyway. It's fine. It always is. As forks clink and conversation drifts, you finally exhale. You did it. Again. Dinner appeared. No one starved. The house still stands. Tomorrow you'll do it all over again, maybe with leftovers and a different soup base. But for now, the frenzy is over. And that counts as a win. Tuna surprise, chicken a la king, and something jiggly with marshmallows. Dinner is a festival of textures and mysteries. You pretend to enjoy it. Everyone pretends you aren't serving leftovers for the third day in a row. This is the heart of the 1960s dinner table experience. Optimism baked into a rectangle and served with confidence. Casseroles are not meals so much as diplomatic compromises. They promise protein, starch, and vegetables in one unified front. Even if no one can quite identify which is which, you slide the dish onto the table with a practiced smile, steam rising like a hopeful prayer. It looks fine. It always looks fine. Taste is a secondary concern. Let's start with tuna surprise, a dish whose name suggests excitement but delivers confusion. You fork into it carefully, navigating noodles softened beyond recognition, peas that surrendered long ago, and tuna flakes clinging together like they're seeking emotional support. The surprise is never pleasant, but it is familiar. The children poke at it, suspicious, but resigned. Your husband takes a bite, chews thoughtfully, and says, "It's good," in the same tone someone uses to describe a chair. Chicken a la king follows on another night, creamy and pale, poured generously over toast that has gone soggy in protest. It tastes like warmth and compromise. You remember making it the first time from a magazine recipe that promised elegance. Now it's a regular guest, showing up whenever you can't face another meatloaf. You serve it proudly anyway, because repetition is invisible if you don't acknowledge it. And then there's the Jell-O. Ah yes, the crown jewel of culinary optimism. It arrives quivering, molded into something vaguely floral, studded with fruit that seems out of place and marshmallows that have no clear purpose. It reflects the light in a way that feels almost radioactive. You slice it cleanly, hoping it holds its shape. It mostly does. Mostly. Everyone smiles. Everyone eats it. No one asks questions. This is the unspoken agreement. The Jell-O is not about flavor. It's about effort. It's about showing you tried something festive. You watch the spoonfuls disappear and wonder, not for the first time, who decided this was a good idea and how they avoided being stopped. As the meal goes on, you notice the little things. The way leftovers quietly return, disguised with a different side dish. The way yesterday's casserole becomes today's lunch and tomorrow's problem. The refrigerator has become a museum of previous dinners. Each container labeled hopefully and forgotten quickly. You tell yourself leftovers are economical, sensible, responsible. You tell yourself this as you spoon out the last of the tuna surprise and promise you'll make something new tomorrow. Conversation floats above the table, light and non-committal. School stories, work complaints. Someone asks what's for dessert, forgetting they already had it. You nod, smile, and take another bite, chewing slowly. It's not bad. It's not good. It's food. And tonight, food is enough. When the plates are cleared and the children wander off, you survey the remains. Half a casserole left, a sliver of jello wobbling bravely. You wrap them up, tuck them into the fridge, and close the door with determination. They'll come back. They always do. Later, when the house is quiet, you sit with a cup of tea and think about it all. The casseroles, the compromises, the strange comfort of repetition. You fed everyone. You kept the routine intact. You survived another dinner. And tomorrow, when the oven preheats and the recipe box opens again, you'll do it all over. Because in this world, success isn't gourmet. It's consistency. And maybe, just maybe, no one noticing the leftovers. At 6 p.m., the front door swings open and the evening ritual begins. Smile, slippers, and the daily handoff of small humans. If you're lucky, you get 5 minutes alone to scream into a hand towel before quality time resumes. You hear the car before the door. The familiar crunch of tires on gravel. The engine cutting off. The brief, sacred pause where the house seems to hold its breath. You straighten your posture instinctively, smoothing your dress, checking that your face still looks like a woman who had a nice day, and not someone who has negotiated peace treaties over spilled milk since dawn. The door opens. He enters, carrying the weight of the outside world on his shoulders, work, traffic, bosses, deadlines. You greet him with a smile that's been practiced since finishing school, warm and welcoming, carefully calibrated to say, "I'm glad you're home," and not, "I have not sat down since Tuesday." He loosens his tie, exhales deeply, and asks the classic question, "How was your day?" You consider your options. You could tell the truth. You could describe the tantrums, the burnt casserole edges, the existential dread triggered by the vacuum cleaner. But instead, you say, "Oh, busy." This is the correct answer. This is the answer that keeps the evening moving forward. Children swarm him immediately, clinging like he's just returned from war instead of the office. He scoops them up, laughing, performing fatherhood in a way that earns approving glances from imaginary neighbors. You watch from the kitchen doorway, half touched, half exhausted. He gets the fun version. You got the unfiltered director's cut. Now comes the exchange. You pass over responsibilities with subtlety. Homework reminders. Bath schedules. Who cried today? And why? You do this casually, like you're handing off a shopping list, not the emotional state of 3 developing humans. He nods, absorbing about 60% of it. That's considered a strong performance. Slippers are produced. His feet slide into them like they were always meant to be there. The newspaper appears. The chair claims him. You feel a strange mix of relief and resentment. Help has arrived. But also, the shift is not over. It has simply changed uniforms. Dinner is either already on the table or moments from being presentable. You make sure plates are arranged neatly. Portions are fair. Napkins are visible. This matters more than it should. The table is the final exam of the day, and you are hoping for a passing grade. Conversation begins. He talks about work. You listen attentively, nodding, asking the right follow-up questions. You are very good at this. You've had practice. He asks about the kids again. You summarize. Efficiently. Gently. Without mentioning that someone hid a sandwich in a sock drawer earlier. If you're very lucky, there's a brief window after dinner. The kids scatter, the dishes wait. You slip into the bathroom or laundry room under the pretense of just a minute, close the door, and breathe. Maybe you grip the sink. Maybe you press a towel to your face and release a silent scream that never quite makes it out. It's not dramatic. It's maintenance. Then you emerge again, refreshed enough, presentable enough, ready for quality time. Quality time means sitting together on the couch. Television murmuring softly. Bodies close, but minds drifting. You lean your head against his shoulder. He pats your hand. It's comforting. It's familiar. It's quiet in a way the day never is. You let yourself rest there, just for a moment, feeling like a person again, and not a system holding everything together with willpower and condensed soup. As the evening winds down, you prepare for tomorrow without saying it out loud. You stack plates, you wipe counters, you make mental lists. He yawns, you smile. The showdown ends without a winner or a loser. It never really does. You both survived the day in your own ways. You both showed up, and that, in this house, is enough to close the door, turn down the lights, and get ready to do it all again tomorrow. While you supervise multiplication tables and glue-based art projects, you quietly wonder if this is what Betty Friedan was writing about. You smile supportively, resisting the urge to drink a second martini and escape to Paris. Homework begins the moment dinner ends, like a curse triggered by clean plates. The table is cleared just enough to make room for notebooks, blunt pencils, and a glue bottle that has never, in its life, been properly closed. You take your seat at the head of the table, the unofficial dean of academics, armed with patience, a damp cloth, and the growing realization that you have not done long division since Eisenhower was in office. One child needs help with multiplication. Another is supposed to be building a creative diorama out of cardboard, pipe cleaners, and hope. The smallest one just wants attention and has chosen this exact moment to ask why the sky exists. You answer automatically, your mind splitting into sections like a well-organized filing cabinet labeled math, art, and quiet despair. Let's start with multiplication. You point to the worksheet, gently encouraging, using the same calm voice you reserve for telemarketers and malfunctioning appliances. Let's think it through, you say, even though you are also thinking it through. 8 times 7 should not feel this personal. Yet here you are, sweating slightly, praying the answer comes to you before your child loses confidence in both you and the educational system. Across the table, glue has been spilled, not dripped, spilled. It oozes slowly toward the edge of the table like a sentient creature, bonding permanently with a stack of construction paper. You leap into action, blotting, wiping, murmuring reassurances that everything is fine and that art is about expression, not structural integrity. The paper curls, the glue wins. Somewhere in the middle of this, a thought creeps in, a quiet one, a dangerous one. Is this it? Is this the great, fulfilling domestic life everyone promised? You look around the table, bent heads, furrowed brows, glitter now inexplicably in someone's hair, and feel a strange mix of love, exhaustion, and something unnamed. You've read the articles. You've skimmed the books. You've felt the question hovering in the background like a half-remembered song. You push it aside. There's spelling to check. The children argue about whose turn it is to use the eraser. You mediate. You compromise. You deploy the universal threat. If you don't finish, there will be no television. This works temporarily, like all good lies. Pencils move again, pages turn, progress is made, or at least the illusion of it. You lean back slightly, hands folded, watching them work. This is the part you're supposed to enjoy, the nurturing, the guidance, the shaping of young minds. And you do, in flashes. But it's hard not to notice how quiet the house feels when they're finally done. When backpacks are zipped and projects are set aside to dry crookedly on the counter. Hard not to notice how tired you are. One child proudly presents a finished assignment. You praise it enthusiastically, even though you don't fully understand it. Another asks if you think they'll ever use math in real life. You pause, then say yes. Absolutely. Because the alternative feels too heavy for a school night. As bedtime approaches, the existential dread softens into something duller, more manageable. The day is winding down. The questions can wait. Paris will still be there tomorrow, or next year, or never. You gather papers, wipe glue from your hands, and shepherd the children toward baths and pajamas. Later, when the table is empty and the house hums quietly, you sit alone for a moment. You think about dreams postponed, identities folded neatly away like old sweaters. You also think about how small hands fit into yours, how voices soften when they say goodnight. Maybe this is what she was writing about. Or maybe it's just one chapter. Either way, the homework is done, and for tonight, that's enough. Before bed, there's the final sweep. Toys hidden, counters wiped, existential crises swept under the rug. The house must look perfect, just in case someone breaks in to judge your throw pillows. This is the quiet, ceremonial hour when the day pretends it never happened. Pajamas are on. Teeth are brushed with varying levels of enthusiasm. And the children have been successfully deposited into their beds like sleepy parcels. Now it's just you, the house, and the low hum of appliances winding down for the night. You should be resting. Instead, you begin the inspection. You start in the living room, where evidence of joy must be erased. Toys are gathered and tucked into baskets with lids. Lids are important because open baskets suggest chaos. You smooth the couch cushions, fluffing them until they resemble something out of a catalogue rather than something sat on by actual humans. The throw pillows are aligned just so, because nothing says moral superiority like symmetrical decor. Next come the surfaces. Coffee tables, side tables. The mysterious shelf no one ever uses but still collects dust. You run your finger across them like a general checking troops. A single speck of dust feels personal. You wipe it away, muttering to yourself, then wipe again, just in case the universe is watching. The kitchen is the real test. Dishes are done. Again. The sink gleams. The counters are wiped until they shine faintly under the overhead light, smelling of lemon and resolve. You rearrange a loaf of bread so the label faces outward. You line up the canisters. You do not know why this matters, but it does. Somewhere deep in your bones, a voice whispers that a clean kitchen is a sign of a successful life. You move through the house methodically, straightening picture frames, folding blankets that will be unfolded again within 12 hours. You pause at the hallway rug, tugging it into alignment because crooked rugs suggest instability. You do not have instability. You have control, at least in rug form. Bathrooms are checked one last time. Towels are rehung, edges aligned. Toothpaste smudges are wiped away like secrets. You peer into the mirror, adjusting it slightly, then realize you've been staring at your own reflection for too long. You smile at yourself, just a little, then turn off the light. As you pass the children's rooms, you peek in quietly. They're asleep, limbs tangled, breathing soft and even. Toys are scattered on the floor, stuffed animals discarded mid-adventure. You consider cleaning, then stop. This mess feels different. This mess feels allowed. You close the door gently, preserving it for the morning. Back in the living room, you hesitate. There's a book on the end table. You pick it up, then put it back neatly, spine facing out. You smooth the lampshade. You check the curtains. Outside, the neighborhood is still, porch lights glowing softly. Lawns indistinguishable in the dark. Somewhere, Mrs. Simmons is probably doing the same thing. You imagine her vacuuming in slippers and feel a strange sense of solidarity. This is when the thoughts creep in. The questions you avoided all day. Did you do enough? Did you say the right things? Did anyone notice how tired you were? You push them aside with a final wipe of the counter. Cleanliness is easier than answers. Finally, you step back and survey your work. The house looks serene, peaceful, empty, in a good way. Anyone walking in now would assume a calm, capable woman lives here. And you do. You just don't live like this all the time. You turn off the lights one by one, plunging each room into darkness, sealing the illusion for the night. As you head to bed, muscles aching, hands faintly smelling of cleaner, you feel a small sense of accomplishment. The house is ready. Tomorrow, it will all unravel again. But for now, everything is in its place, and that's enough to let you sleep. At last, it's time for a little relaxation. You collapse in front of the television, absorbing the lessons of perfect families and talking horses. You dream of running away to be a laughing dancer, but tomorrow is another day. You lower yourself onto the couch carefully, like someone testing ice on a frozen pond. Your feet ache, your shoulders hum with exhaustion, and the fabric of the cushions feels cooler than it has any right to. This is it. This is your moment. The dishes are done. The house is quiet, and the television is warming up with that familiar soft glow that makes everything feel slightly less real. The TV clicks on, and suddenly you're invited into other people's living rooms. Cleaner living rooms, calmer living rooms where problems are solved in under 30 minutes and no one ever spills juice on the rug. The opening theme music swells, cheerful and confident, and you sink a little deeper into the couch, letting it wash over you like a lullaby sponsored by detergent companies. Here comes the perfect family. The father is kind but firm. The mother is effortlessly composed, wearing pearls even while dispensing wisdom. The children learn lessons and apologize sincerely. You watch closely, not because you believe this is real, but because it's soothing. It's nice to imagine a world where misunderstandings are cleared up before the commercial break and everyone hugs at the end. Then there's the talking horse. You don't question it. You don't ask how or why. The horse talks, and that's enough. He's sarcastic, worldly, and somehow wiser than all the humans around him. You find yourself nodding along, agreeing with his commentary, briefly considering whether a talking animal would make your life easier or harder. You decide it depends on whether it could fold laundry. The commercials roll in again, bright, cheerful, relentless. You half watch, half doze, absorbing promises of happiness through floor polish and boxed dinners. You tell yourself you're not paying attention, but you are. Tomorrow, you'll remember the jingle. Tomorrow, you'll stand in the store and feel drawn to the brand that told you everything could be simpler. Your husband settles in beside you, loosening his tie, sighing contentedly. This is the quiet version of togetherness. No talking required, just shared silence and the soft flicker of black and white images. He laughs at a joke. You smile, even if you missed the setup. The laughter feels good, borrowed and easy. As the evening wears on, your thoughts begin to drift. You imagine yourself somewhere else, on a stage, in a short skirt, dancing wildly while people laugh and clap. You imagine applause, bright lights, a version of yourself who doesn't have to set an alarm or pack lunches. You don't linger there too long. Fantasy is best in small doses. Too much and it starts asking questions. The TV characters face minor crises. Someone misunderstands someone else. Someone learns a lesson. Everything resets. You envy that reset. Tomorrow, the characters will wake up fresh, unburdened by yesterday's mess. Tomorrow, your characters will too, but you'll still remember the laundry. Your eyelids grow heavy. The TV volume dips, then rises again as someone reaches for the remote. Another show begins. Another family. Another escape. You let it play. The flickering light dances across the walls, softening edges, smoothing corners, making the house feel gentler than it did an hour ago. Eventually, the credits roll. The station signs off for the night. The screen fades to static, that gentle hiss filling the room like ocean waves. You sit there for a moment longer, not quite ready to stand, savoring the stillness. This was your escape, not dramatic, not permanent. Just enough to remind you that there's a world beyond your walls, and that it will still be there tomorrow, right on schedule. You turn off the TV. The room goes quiet. Tomorrow is another day. But for now, this was enough. Lights out, but your brain is still on. You attempt a grown-up conversation, but mostly negotiate for more blanket and less snoring. Romance is a commercial break between household chores. The bedroom is finally dark, save for the faint glow of the street lamp leaking through the curtains. The house has settled into its nighttime creaks and sighs, pipes ticking, floors adjusting, everything finding its place. You slide under the covers carefully, as if sudden movement might wake the entire block. Your body is exhausted in that deep, heavy way that comes from doing 1,000 small things instead of one big one. This is supposed to be the quiet, intimate part of the day. The magazines told you so. Evening is for connection, for sharing thoughts, for meaningful conversation. You turn slightly toward your husband, arranging your face into something thoughtful but relaxed, and say something gentle. Maybe it's about the kids. Maybe it's about the day. Maybe it's a carefully worded comment about the weird noise the car has been making. He hums in response. Not words. Just a hum. You try again. He answers this time, briefly, already drifting towards sleep. His breathing changes, slow and steady, like someone sinking into a warm pool. You watch this happen with a mix of fondness and mild irritation. It took you 12 hours to get here. It took him 12 minutes. You shift, tugging the blanket back toward your side. He has somehow claimed most of it without moving. This becomes the first negotiation of the night. You pull. He adjusts unconsciously, rolling just enough to trap the blanket under his shoulder. You consider waking him to discuss it, then decide that feels like paperwork you don't have the energy for. The snoring begins. Soft at first, experimental, like it's testing the room. You lie very still, hoping it might stop on its own if ignored. It does not. It gains confidence, rhythm. You stare at the ceiling, tracing patterns in the dark, wondering if this is how diplomats feel during stalled peace talks. Your mind, freed from daytime obligations, begins its nightly performance. Did you remember to switch the laundry? Did you sound annoyed earlier? Did you forget someone's permission slip? Is this all there is? Or just this chapter? The thoughts stack up gently, not urgent, just persistent, like someone tapping on your shoulder with existential questions. You roll onto your other side. The mattress creaks in protest. The snoring pauses. Victory. You relax, breathing slowly, until it resumes at a slightly higher volume. You sigh quietly. Romance, you decide, is mostly about endurance. Still, there are moments. A hand reaches for yours, warm and familiar. It squeezes gently, even in sleep. That small gesture carries more meaning than the daytime words ever seem to manage. This is the language you both speak fluently now: touch, presence, shared fatigue. You think about earlier years, when pillow talk meant dreams and plans, whispered jokes and laughter that kept you up too late. Now it means murmured reminders, half-finished sentences, and falling asleep mid-thought. It's not worse. It's just different, quieter, heavier. Like furniture that's been in the house a long time, scuffed, reliable, impossible to imagine replacing. Eventually, you give up on conversation and focus on comfort. You tuck the blanket around your shoulders as best you can. You adjust the pillow. You listen to the snoring until it becomes white noise, blending into the hum of the house. Your breathing slows. Your thoughts soften. Tomorrow, you'll talk, or you won't. Tomorrow will have its own negotiations, its own small compromises. Tonight, this is enough. Lights out. Diplomacy achieved. And slowly, gently, you drift off, still tired, still thinking, but finally at rest. You tiptoe into the kitchen for a forbidden treat, just a bite of pie, and maybe one more of those magical helpers. You tell yourself you deserve it. You're absolutely right. The house is finally asleep. Not the polite, pretend asleep of early bedtime, but the deep, settled kind where even the refrigerator seems to hum more quietly out of respect. The floorboards, traitorous during the day, somehow cooperate now, creaking softly but not enough to wake anyone. You move carefully anyway, barefoot, navigating the dark like a jewel thief whose prize is leftover dessert. The kitchen light clicks on, harsh and unforgiving. You wince, then soften it by switching on the small lamp by the sink, the one that makes everything look gentler, more forgiving. In this light, crumbs are suggestions, not failures. You open the fridge. There it is, the pie, wrapped loosely in wax paper, missing one slice that was saved for tomorrow, which everyone knows means now. You peel back the paper with reverence. The filling has set just enough. The crust is still holding together, mostly. You don't bother with a plate. Plates are for daytime rules. You take a fork straight from the drawer and carve out a bite that's technically too large to be called a bite. You chew slowly. This isn't hunger. This is ceremony. As you stand there in the quiet kitchen, you feel something close to peace. No one is asking questions. No one needs help with fractions. No one is judging the state of your counters. It's just you, the hum of appliances, and the knowledge that this pie has no expectations of you whatsoever. You consider stopping there. You really do. But then your eyes drift, almost without permission, to the cabinet. The medicine cabinet has its daytime face. Aspirin, cough drops, cold cream. But behind that, tucked just out of sight, is the secret stash. The bottle you don't discuss. The one you didn't really ask for. The one that arrived with a prescription and a reassuring smile from a man in a white coat who said something about taking the edge off. You hesitate. You don't need it. You've made it through the day. You survived dinner, homework, bedtime negotiations. But the thought is comforting, the option. Like a soft chair in the corner of your mind. You open the cabinet. The bottle is lighter than you remember. That catches your attention. You shake it gently. There are still a few left. Enough. You take one out, small and unassuming, and hold it in your palm for a moment longer than necessary. You think about tomorrow, the lists, the expectations, the quiet pressure that starts the moment the alarm clock rings. You think about how everyone assumes you're fine because you look fine, because the house is standing, because dinner appeared. You take the pill with a sip of water from a chipped glass. Nothing dramatic happens, nothing ever does. But slowly, gently, the sharp edges of the day soften. The constant background hum in your head lowers its volume just a notch. You breathe a little deeper. Back at the counter, you take one last bite of pie. You wrap it up carefully, like you're preserving something precious, and put it back in the fridge. You wipe the fork and return it to the drawer, aligning it just so. Habits are hard to turn off completely. Before heading back to bed, you stand in the kitchen for a moment longer. The clock reads some unreasonable hour. You should feel guilty. You don't. This moment, this quiet, stolen pause, is yours. You turn off the lamp and move back down the hallway, slipping into bed without waking anyone. The covers feel heavier now, comforting. The house settles again around you, holding its breath. Tomorrow, the routines will restart. The rules will reappear. But for now, in this small pocket of the night, you allowed yourself something just for you. And somehow, that makes all the difference. Lying awake, you wonder if everyone else is this tired, this anxious, or this lonely. You count the little white pills left in your bottle and promise you'll ask the doctor for more next week, or never, depending on your mood. This is the hour when the house is quiet enough for thoughts to get brave. The day is done, the lights are off, and the world has stopped asking anything of you, except, inconveniently, to sleep. You stare at the ceiling, tracing familiar cracks in the plaster, each one mapped like a constellation you've memorized over the years. You know this one. You've visited it often. Your body is heavy, pleasantly so, but your mind keeps moving. It reviews the day in soft focus. The good moments feel smaller now. The awkward ones feel larger. Did you snap at the kids? Did you forget to return that phone call? Did you sound ungrateful when your husband asked what was wrong and you said nothing, which was technically true and also completely false? Your hand drifts toward the nightstand, where the bottle waits. It doesn't glow or whisper. It just exists. Ordinary. Unremarkable. You turn it slightly so the label faces away, as if that makes it less real. You already took one earlier. Probably. You think you did. You're fairly sure. Either way, it worked just enough to get you here. Quiet, horizontal, thinking too much. You tell yourself everyone feels like this sometimes. That this isn't special. That this is just what adulthood feels like when the noise finally stops. But then the thought slips in, uninvited and unwelcome. What if this isn't normal? What if everyone else is sleeping peacefully, dreaming simple dreams, while you lie here tallying pills and emotions like grocery items? You remember the doctor's office, the calm voice, the reassurance. A lot of women feel this way, he said, pen poised mid-prescription. This will help take the edge off. You nodded, relieved, grateful even. You didn't ask how long the edge would last, or what happens when it dulls but never quite disappears. You roll onto your side. The mattress sighs. Beside you, your husband sleeps soundly, his breathing steady and untroubled. You feel a familiar mix of comfort and distance. You love him, you do. But there are thoughts you don't share because they feel too heavy, too vague, too hard to explain without sounding ungrateful for the life you're supposed to be happy with. You think about other women, the neighbors, the ones with the perfect lawns and the immaculate kitchens, the ones who smile knowingly at the pharmacy counter. Are they awake too? Are they counting? Are they wondering if this quiet ache is just part of the deal? The bottle on the nightstand feels louder now, even though it hasn't moved. You don't reach for it. Not yet. You tell yourself tomorrow you'll be fine. Tomorrow you'll feel rested. Tomorrow you'll laugh more easily and forget this heaviness entirely. Tomorrow is a very useful word. Eventually, your thoughts slow, not because they've been resolved, but because they've grown tired of circling the same questions. Your breathing evens out. The ceiling fades back into darkness. The house holds you gently, like it always does, whether you notice or not. Just before sleep takes you, you make that quiet promise again. You'll talk to the doctor, or you won't. You'll figure it out. Or you'll keep going the way you are, because that's what you've been doing all along. The pills stay where they are. The questions stay unanswered. And finally, mercifully, you drift off, not because everything is okay, but because rest, like hope, sometimes arrives whether you're ready for it or not. Some nights, you dream of traveling the world, writing a book, or just having a conversation that doesn't involve laundry. You wake up knowing your greatest rebellion is getting through another day with your sense of humor intact. The dreams don't announce themselves. They drift in quietly, somewhere between sleep and wakefulness, slipping past the part of your mind that knows better. In them, you are lighter, unencumbered. You're walking through a foreign city where no one knows your name, your grocery list, or how many loads of laundry you forgot to fold. Your shoes are comfortable. Your hands are empty. No one is calling for you from another room. Sometimes you're writing. Sitting at a small desk by a window, pen moving steadily across paper, thoughts flowing without interruption. No one asks what's for dinner. No one interrupts to tell you the dog threw up again. You write because you want to, because the words belong to you. You don't even care if anyone reads it. The act itself feels radical. Other nights, the dream is simpler. You're just talking, with an adult, about something that doesn't require a solution. No schedules, no obligations. Just conversation that wanders where it wants to go. You laugh, you listen, you feel seen in a way that has nothing to do with how well you've kept the house running. These dreams are dangerous. Not because they're unrealistic, but because they're gentle. They don't scream dissatisfaction. They whisper possibility. And whispers are harder to ignore. You wake slowly, the ceiling coming back into focus, the weight of the blankets returning. The dream slips away like it was never really yours. The clock reminds you of the time. The house reminds you of its needs. For a moment, there's a quiet ache, not sharp enough to name, but heavy enough to notice. The magazines on your nightstand don't talk about this part. They show smiling women in pressed dresses, gazing lovingly at their families, or proudly displaying a spotless kitchen. They offer tips for brighter floors and fluffier hair, not questions about what happens when you've done everything right and still feel restless. You flip through the pages sometimes, half curious, half skeptical. The advice is always the same. Try harder, organize better, smile more. There's no column titled, "What if you want something else?" There's certainly no guide for how to want something quietly, without breaking everything around you, so you adapt. You find small rebellions instead. You read an extra chapter after everyone's asleep. You let the laundry sit for one night longer than usual. You make a joke about the absurdity of it all and mean it, because humor is safer than honesty and far more socially acceptable. You dream in fragments and store them away like postcards you'll never send. During the day, you perform competence beautifully. You move through your routines with practiced ease. People tell you how well you're doing. You nod, thank them, and keep going. You are good at this life. That's the part no one warns you about. That being good at it makes it harder to admit when you want more. At night, when the house finally goes quiet again, you lie still and let your mind wander just enough to feel human. You don't plan an escape. You don't pack a bag. You just imagine, briefly, what freedom might feel like if it didn't require permission. And then morning comes. You wake up, stretch, and smile at the day ahead. Not because it's easy, or fair, or fulfilling in all the ways promised, but because you've learned that survival, in this world, is its own quiet form of rebellion. You carry the dream with you anyway, folded neatly, right next to your sense of humor. The sun rises. The alarm sounds. It all begins again. But this time, you have a secret weapon, mother's little helper, and 1,000 small acts of defiance hidden behind your perfect painted smile. Morning doesn't ease in gently. It arrives with purpose. The alarm clock buzzes like it has somewhere better to be, and you reach out to silence it before it wakes the rest of the house. Or worse, gives you time to think. You lie there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, recalibrating. Yesterday happened. You survived it. Today will require the same level of commitment. You sit up slowly, joints stiff, hair already planning its rebellion. The house is quiet again, suspended in that brief window before responsibility wakes up. You pad to the bathroom, splash water on your face, and take inventory in the mirror. You look fine. That's the goal. Fine is powerful. Fine keeps questions away. Somewhere in the background, you hear the familiar sounds beginning to stir. The low thump of a child rolling out of bed. The distant cough of a husband preparing for another workday. The cycle is restarting whether you're ready or not. You reach into the medicine cabinet, careful, practiced, and take out your little secret. Just one. Just enough to smooth the edges. Not to escape the day. Just to face it without grinding your teeth into dust. As the pill dissolves and the coffee brews, you feel the gears clicking back into place. The smile returns, not forced exactly, just applied, like lipstick, like perfume, like armor. You move through the house, resetting everything to its default position. Beds are made, curtains opened, breakfast assembled from muscle memory. You don't question it anymore. You operate on instinct now. A well-trained system that knows exactly how long toast takes to burn and exactly how fast children can unravel a clean room. But today, there are small rebellions. You don't refold the towels. You leave one dish in the sink. You let the kids eat breakfast in mismatched bowls and decide that no one will die from it. You hum along to the radio instead of turning it off. These are tiny things, invisible things, but they're yours. Outside, the neighborhood wakes up in sync. Garage doors rise, engines start. Lawns wait patiently to be judged later. You catch your reflection in the window, hair done, dress pressed, posture upright, and you recognize the woman staring back. She's competent, she's capable, she's doing her job, and beneath all of that, she's quietly choosing which rules to follow today. You load everyone into the car again. You wave at the neighbors. You smile the smile. It still works. It always has. But this time, you know what's underneath it. Not despair, not defeat, but endurance. Stubborn, unglamorous endurance. The day stretches ahead, full of the same tasks, the same expectations, the same invisible labor that keeps everything upright. But now you understand something you didn't before. This life isn't about winning or escaping. It's about surviving with pieces of yourself intact. You will clean, you will cook, you will listen, you will nod, and somewhere between the grocery list and the afternoon lull, you will claim moments that belong only to you. A quiet thought, a sarcastic remark, a choice made just because you wanted to. By evening, you'll be tired again. By night, you'll question everything again. And tomorrow, the alarm will ring again. But you'll be here, still standing, still smiling, still surviving. And in a world that asks so much while pretending it asks nothing at all, that quiet persistence, polished, medicated, and mildly rebellious, is its own kind of victory. Reset, repeat, survive. You sit at the kitchen table with your magazine, scanning the agony aunt columns for secret answers. Each letter is a tiny scream behind a mask of politeness. My husband ignores me. My casserole won't set. Is it normal to feel trapped? You read them all, nodding in solidarity, wondering if your own secret thoughts will ever make it to print, or if the editors would just suggest another jellied salad. The magazine lies open beside your coffee cup, its glossy pages slightly warped from steam and fingerprints. This is supposed to be light reading. Advice? Encouragement. But you treat it like contraband, reading carefully, privately, as if someone might burst in and accuse you of overthinking. The problem page is your favorite, though you'd never admit that out loud. It's the only place where honesty sneaks in, disguised as a question. Dear editor, one letter begins. I love my family very much, but sometimes I feel tired for no reason at all. You pause there. For no reason at all. You could underline that sentence. You don't, but you could. Another letter wonders if it's selfish to want time alone. Another asks how to rekindle sparkle after 10 years of marriage, 3 children, and a constant ringing phone. You sip your coffee slowly, like you're pacing yourself through something emotional. The editor's responses are gentle, reassuring, and completely unhelpful. Take pride in your role, they say. Try a new recipe. Communicate openly. You imagine writing back. I've tried the recipes. I've communicated. I still feel like my brain is buzzing like a refrigerator that won't shut off. But the magazine isn't built for that kind of answer. It's built for optimism in small, manageable doses. You glance around the kitchen. The chair across from you is empty. The house is quiet. This is the part of the day that feels like borrowed time. The letters make you feel less alone and more exposed at the same time. Every question feels familiar, even when the details are different. Different towns, different names. Same tone, same ache. You imagine writing your own letter. You picture yourself carefully phrasing it, polite and calm. Dear editor, sometimes I feel like I'm watching my own life from a distance. Is that normal? You'd never send it, of course. Even in your imagination, you edit yourself. You soften it. You add a joke. You mention your gratitude. You don't want to sound dramatic. You just want to know if anyone else feels like this. The magazine offers solutions that fit neatly on the page. A new hobby, better organization, a positive attitude. None of them mention exhaustion that doesn't go away with sleep. None of them explain what to do when you've done everything right and still feel restless. You fold the corner of the page anyway, just in case. Somewhere between the letters and the advertisements for wrinkle cream and miracle blenders, you feel a strange comfort. These pages are proof. Proof that the feelings exist. Proof that they're common enough to be printed, even if they're never fully named. You're not the only one reading this with a knot in your chest and a practiced smile on your face. The phone rings. You jump slightly, closing the magazine a little too fast. It's just a neighbor, or a reminder, or someone selling something. You answer politely, because that's what you do. When you hang up, the magazine is still there, waiting. You read one last letter before standing up. This one ends with hope. They usually do. You appreciate that, even if it feels borrowed. You smooth the page, close the magazine, and tuck it under a stack of mail. It will be there tomorrow, or next week, or whenever you need to remember that other women have sat at other kitchen tables, reading the same words asking the same questions. You rinse your cup, you straighten the chair, life continues. But the words linger, and for now, that quiet recognition, that soft, shared understanding, is enough to get you through the rest of the day. It's July, the drapes are drawn, and you're fanning yourself with a church bulletin while pretending your makeup isn't melting off. The neighbors insist their attic fan is the future, but you're still stuffing towels under doors and freezing wet washcloths for the kids. You daydream about winter, then remember last winter and daydream about Hawaii instead. The heat arrives early and settles in like an uninvited guest who refuses to leave. By 8 a.m., the house is already warm, and by noon, it's a full-blown sauna with floral wallpaper. You move slowly, deliberately, because every unnecessary step feels like a personal insult from the sun. Your dress clings in places dresses were never meant to cling, and you make a mental note to stop moving your arms too much. The official strategy is simple. Keep the heat out and the illusion of comfort in. Curtains stay closed, even though you'd like the light. Windows are opened just enough to encourage a breeze, but not so much that the hot air rushes in like it owns the place. You arrange box fans at strange angles, hoping to trick physics into helping you. The fans roar loudly, pushing air around without actually cooling anything, but the noise is comforting. It sounds like effort. The attic fan is the real status symbol this summer. Mrs. Simmons won't stop talking about hers. She claims it changed her life. She claims she sleeps like a baby. You nod politely while wondering how many towels she's stuffing under her doors at night and whether her baby also wakes up damp and irritable. You don't have an attic fan. You have resourcefulness. You soak washcloths in cold water and lay them across foreheads and necks like you're running a field hospital. The children complain anyway. The dog sprawls dramatically on the kitchen floor, as if auditioning for a tragedy. You hand out popsicles strategically, knowing they are both a treat and a distraction. Juice drips everywhere. You pretend not to see it. Cooking becomes an act of defiance. Turning on the oven feels reckless, almost rebellious, so dinners shift toward anything that doesn't require heat. Cold cuts, gelatin-based creations, salads that wilt the second you look at them. You promise yourself you'll cook properly again in September, assuming September ever comes. By mid-afternoon, your patience thins along with your patience for humidity. Everything feels louder. The ticking clock, the buzzing fan, the neighbor's lawnmower, which seems cruelly unnecessary. You wipe your face with a handkerchief and check the mirror, discovering your eyeliner has migrated south. You consider fixing it, then decide you've earned the smudge. You try to rest, but rest is slippery in this heat. Sitting still feels sticky. Lying down feels worse. You perch on the edge of a chair, lifting your feet slightly off the floor, because the floor is warm too and clearly cannot be trusted. You flip through a magazine, the pages sticking together, and fantasize about beaches where people wear white and look relaxed on purpose. Winter crosses your mind briefly. Snow, coats, the joy of cold air on your face. Then you remember last winter, the drafts, the frozen pipes, the endless layering, and immediately pivot to Hawaii. You imagine palm trees, cool drinks, and not caring what your hair looks like. It's a good fantasy. You hold on to it. As evening approaches, the heat loosens its grip just enough to make survival possible again. You open the windows wider. The fans continue their heroic but ineffective work. The children settle down, slower now, softened by the day. You take a deep breath, the air still warm but manageable. You made it through another summer day without air conditioning. The house didn't melt. Neither did you. Your makeup might be questionable, your mood slightly fragile, but you're still standing. And tomorrow you'll do it all again. With towels, fans, and just enough patience to get by. The bridge table is set, the coffee is percolating, and every lady at the table is armed with cards, compliments, and at least 3 layers of subtext. Someone's playing for keeps, someone's cheating, and someone else is complimenting your shoes while plotting to accidentally spill grape juice on your new rug. Winning is optional. Keeping your dignity is not. You take your seat carefully, smoothing your skirt and arranging your face into its most neutral, friendly expression. This is not a game night. This is diplomacy with playing cards. The table itself is a modest battleground, covered with a floral tablecloth you don't remember buying but absolutely would defend with your life. The chairs are close enough that everyone can hear everyone else breathe, which feels intentional. The coffee finishes percolating with a dramatic hiss, signaling the official start. Cups are poured, sugar is offered, and declined with thin smiles. Someone mentions how strong the coffee is today, which is not a complaint, exactly, but not a compliment either. You nod politely. You all nod politely. This is how it begins. Cards are dealt. The sound is crisp, deliberate. You hold your hand close, eyes flicking across the table, reading faces more than cards. Mrs. Franklin clears her throat and rearranges her hand for the 3rd time. That's confidence or guilt. Hard to say. Mrs. Torres smiles warmly at you and says, "Oh, those shoes are darling." You thank her, knowing full well she bought the same pair last spring and returned them because they were too flashy. The bidding starts, and so does the commentary. Not about the game, never about the game, but about the weather, the school, the price of meat lately. Each remark is placed carefully, like a card slid just a bit too hard onto the table. Someone sighs loudly when their partner misses a trick. Someone else laughs it off in a way that suggests they will not, in fact, laugh it off later. You play your cards calmly, even when you suspect the woman across from you is absolutely cheating. She has a tell. They all do. Hers is a slight eyebrow raise before playing a card she definitely should not have. You notice. You say nothing. Calling out cheating at bridge club is social suicide. Instead, you file it away, mentally, like a polite grudge to be revisited at a later date. Halfway through the game, someone brings out a plate of cookies. They are homemade. Everyone knows this because she tells you twice. You take one anyway, complimenting the texture, because manners are more important than honesty. Someone else mentions how convenient it must be to have time to bake during the week. You sense the room tighten slightly. A laugh follows. It does not help. As the hands progress, so does the tension. Someone slams a card down just a bit too hard. Someone else forgets whose turn it is. There are gentle reminders, sharp glances, and a running tally of perceived slights that will never be spoken aloud. You maintain your composure, sipping coffee, nodding sympathetically, pretending you are here strictly for fun. You are not here strictly for fun. You are here because this is what women do. They gather, they socialize, they compete quietly. They measure themselves against one another using smiles and pastries instead of scorecards. Bridge is just the excuse. By the final hand, no one remembers who's technically winning. That stopped mattering an hour ago. What matters is who made the fewest mistakes, who kept their voice calm, who didn't let the irritation show. When the game ends, there's polite applause, vague agreement that it was a good game, an immediate analysis of who really let the team down. You stand, stretch, and thank the hostess sincerely. You mean it, mostly. As you gather your purse and your dignity, you feel a familiar mix of exhaustion and relief. You survived. No scenes. No open conflict. No grape juice incidents. Outside, the air feels lighter. You take a deep breath and smile to yourself. Winning may be optional, but today you absolutely did. 16 children, 3 dozen balloons, and a punch bowl that could stun an ox. You have party hats, chocolate cake, and the looming fear that something sticky will be permanently adhered to the ceiling. As the chaos erupts, you wonder if you'll ever get all the confetti out of the carpet, or if your mother's little helper supply will last until cake is served. The party begins before it officially begins. Children arrive early, vibrating with sugar-fueled anticipation, even though no sugar has technically been served yet. Coats are dropped wherever gravity allows. Shoes are abandoned like they've escaped captivity. Parents smile brightly, handing you wrapped boxes and making comments like, "Oh, don't worry, kids are easy," before fleeing back to the quiet safety of their sedans. You clap your hands and announce the first game. Something simple, something controlled. Pin the tail on the donkey. A classic. Foolproof. Except no one wants to wear the blindfold. One child refuses to pin anything on moral grounds, and another has already wandered off to investigate the punch bowl with unsettling focus. You pivot. Musical chairs. That will work. It does not. The music blares from the record player, skipping slightly, while children circle chairs with the intensity of tiny gladiators. When the music stops, chaos erupts. Someone cries, someone cheats. Someone sits on 2 chairs at once and insists this is fair. You intervene calmly, reminding yourself that no one warned you about this part of parenthood because it's probably illegal to do so. The balloons begin to pop, loudly, unexpectedly. Each explosion sends a ripple of shrieks through the room, followed by laughter, followed by another pop. You stop flinching after the 5th one. By the 10th, you are numb. By the 15th, you are considering the structural integrity of your eardrums. Then comes the punch. The punch is red, dangerously red, the kind of red that stains souls. You ladle it carefully into small paper cups, warning everyone to walk, not run. They run. A cup tips. A splash lands on the rug. Time slows. You blot immediately, praying to every domestic deity you know. The stain remains. You decide to call it festive. Confetti appears from nowhere. It clings to everything. Hair, furniture, pets. You find some in your shoe later, and briefly consider burning the house down and starting over. Instead, you smile and direct the children toward the next activity, which at this point is simply stay in one place for 30 seconds. Finally, mercifully, it's time for cake. The cake is beautiful. You worked hard on it. Frosting smooth, candles straight. The children gather, chanting, bouncing, breathing directly onto the icing. You light the candles and instruct them not to spit. They immediately spit. The birthday child blows them out with such enthusiasm that wax flies everywhere. You clap anyway. Cake is served. Crumbs fall like snow. Frosting smears across faces, hands, and possibly walls. Someone drops their slice frosting side down and looks at you with betrayal in their eyes. You cut another piece. Portions are generous. You want this to end. As sugar takes hold, the noise level reaches a pitch usually reserved for emergency sirens. Children run. Children scream. Children invent games you don't understand and don't want to. You hand out goodie bags like peace offerings. Parents begin to return, surveying the scene with polite horror. One by one, the children leave. The house empties. Silence returns, heavy and earned. You stand in the middle of the living room, surrounded by deflated balloons, sticky plates, and the faint smell of regret. You did it. No major injuries, no permanent stains you can't rationalize. The birthday child is happy. Exhausted, but happy. Later, as you vacuum confetti for the 3rd time, you tell yourself this is worth it. The memories, the joy, the proof that you survived another milestone. You glance at the clock. You smile tiredly. Next year, you're outsourcing. When the kids are in bed and the husband is snoring, you flip open a paperback or a correspondence course catalogue. Maybe tonight you'll actually read more than 3 pages. Maybe, just maybe, you'll start that secret novel or join the book club that always devolves into gossip and sherry. Every page turned is a quiet rebellion, a reminder there's more to you than meets the casserole dish. This is the hour that belongs to you, at least in theory. The house is dim, the lamps low, the television finally off. You sit at the kitchen table or perch on the edge of the couch, careful not to wake anyone, holding a book like it's contraband. The cover is modest, respectable, nothing too radical. Still, you glance toward the hallway before opening it, as if reading for pleasure might trigger an alarm. You tell yourself you'll just read a chapter. One chapter is reasonable. One chapter won't interfere with tomorrow. You settle in, eyes scanning the page, words slowly taking shape in your tired brain. For a few moments, it works. You are somewhere else. Somewhere quieter. Somewhere no one is asking you to solve a problem or clean something sticky. Then your eyelids grow heavy. You blink, reread the same paragraph, realize you've absorbed nothing, and stubbornly continue anyway. This isn't about comprehension. It's about intention. About proving to yourself, mostly, that you still want things. Ideas. Stories. Knowledge that doesn't immediately translate into a cleaner house or a better dinner. Sometimes it's a correspondence course catalogue instead of a novel. The pages are filled with promise. Learn shorthand. Study interior design. Become an expert in something. You trace the course descriptions with your finger, imagining a version of yourself with certificates, opinions, maybe even a job title that doesn't include the word homemaker. You fold the corner of the page. You always fold the corner. Book club brochures are another temptation. They promise discussion, insight, connection. You know, deep down, that the conversation will drift, that wine will appear, that someone will mention their husband in a tone that suggests unresolved feelings. But still, you consider it. Being in a room where people talk about books feels close enough to the life you imagined once. You think about night school. The idea both thrills and exhausts you. Classes after dinner, homework of your own, a place to go where no one knows how clean your house is. You imagine sitting in a classroom, notebook open, brain engaged. Then you imagine the logistics, the babysitting, the explanations, the raised eyebrows. You set the catalogue aside gently, like something fragile. Still, the ambition doesn't leave. It lingers quietly, patient. It shows up in small ways. You jot down a sentence on a scrap of paper. You underline a passage. You keep a book in your purse just in case you get 10 minutes alone somewhere. These are not grand gestures. They are survivals. The house creaks. The snoring continues. Time slips by faster than you expect. You glance at the clock and feel that familiar tug. Responsibility calling you back. You mark your place carefully, even if you know you won't return to it tomorrow. You close the book with a sigh that's equal parts satisfaction and regret. Before bed, you tuck the paperback somewhere safe, not hidden, just out of the way. You want it close enough to remember, far enough not to cause trouble. As you turn out the light, you carry the words with you, not the plot exactly, but the feeling, the reminder. You are more than your routines, more than your roles. Even if no one else sees it right now, you do. And for tonight, that's enough. Tomorrow, you'll wake up and do it all again. But somewhere in the quiet spaces of your mind, the pages are still turning. and so are you. As the pastel evening fades and the hum of the dishwasher becomes your final lullaby, let's take a moment to honor the world you've just survived. Today, you juggled casseroles, criticism, and kids with nothing but a bottle of aspirin and a smile brighter than your kitchen linoleum. You navigated gossip, green jello, existential dread, and the relentless tick of the wall clock, all without a single moment truly to yourself. If that's not a superpower, what is? Tonight, as you stretch out in your modern bed, no girdle required. Thank goodness. Maybe send a little gratitude back to those 1960s housewives who endured it all. The endless chores, the silent struggles, the impossible standards. And yes, the mother's little helpers quietly lined up in the medicine cabinet. Their resilience wasn't in magazine headlines, but in 1,000 small acts of defiance, kindness, and dry humor behind every closed door. So as you drift towards sleep, remember, you owe your hot showers, your store-bought snacks, and your right to ignore the laundry for one more day to generations of women who found ways to survive and even laugh through the absurdity. Because history isn't just a parade of big moments, it's the echo of tired feet on kitchen tiles, whispered jokes between friends, and hope tucked between grocery lists. Rest easy, knowing the world is just a little softer now. And maybe whisper a thank you to all the unsung heroes in curlers who came before you. Good night, and here's to never having to eat another Jell-O salad again.